What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Believe in Kentucky. We got Cole Park traveling all across the Southeast. My name is Vinny Hardy. Y'all know Cole from the Cat's Paws. And we're going to reluctantly look back a little bit at Saturday in Columbia. And I don't know, maybe is it reluctantly look ahead to Saturday in Athens, coming off a loss. So, hey, it gets real brutal schedule wise because it's October and we knew this was coming, and here we are.
hmm Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be that guy. I'm not going to say that guy. I'm just saying I've seen a lot online of at least Big Blue Madness is just a week away or so. So that's about where it's at right now. That was a brutal game in South Carolina. I was down there in Columbia in Williams-Brice Stadium. Started well, and then very quickly went not well, and never quite recovered from that. Going into Georgia this weekend, I mean, the betting line, I think, opened at like 22.5. I think now it's down to like 20.5, but 20-point underdog, I mean, that's not what you ever want to see as an SEC institution. And it's only going to get worse after that because you go on your bye week. And we know how Kentucky tends to play after bye weeks. Then you got Texas, Tennessee, maybe even Auburn, depending on if they can kind of keep up how they started the season. We don't know what they're going to be by the time that rolls around, but it's looking rough, Vinny. It's looking rough.
And that was one of the questions in the summer. Can they keep everybody's interest to the Big Blue Madness? Will everyone have checked out by the time Big Blue Madness gets here? And you hate to beat a dead horse. You hate to be negative. We we had Rickson Lane on here from Believe in South Carolina last week. The Spider-Man memes, they're in the same boat as we are. This game means a lot to Kentucky, it means a lot to South Carolina because this October on is brutal for both programs. And 31-6 last year, Kentucky didn't want to duplicate that. It ends up being 35-13. So the past 2 years, four in a row, but the past 2 years, that's 66-19. Been outscored last year and now this past Saturday. So that's for two teams to be in the same boat and at a crossroads, still quite a bit of a big gap.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I was on here last week and we were talking about why this game was so important to Kentucky and what it needed to do. Talked about how last week the pass rush of South Carolina was just oppressive. It felt like Kentucky could never get anything done. Well, the defense scored 2 touchdowns. Cutter got sacked 6 times. One of those was the first touchdown that they scored with the defense. A scoop and score on the fumble when they just laid out Cutter in the backfield. He ended up getting sacked 5 more times after that point. Some of that was on him. Held onto the football a little bit too long. He's admitted that. He said that. He said that after the game that he's going to take full accountability for that. Bush Hamden kind of said that today. Said, got to get rid of the football a little bit faster. Bit of a funny quote from Bush today. Someone asked him, do you think he's going to be better about that? Like releasing the football earlier, being more aware of where the pressure is coming from. And he said, it's something you have to consider. He's a young quarterback, but he knows now. He knows now what that looks like when you hold on to the football or things don't go quite as well. Not all of it was his fault. There was certainly some, shall we say, struggles from the offensive tackles. The pass rush there was doing some twisting moves, getting around those guys pretty well. Just a rough showing, But what I was saying, we talked about it last week on the South Carolina game, how personal it was, how embarrassed Kentucky was last year, how important it was going to be to focus on all these different things. And I think the offensive line this year is still better than it was last year, but 6 sacks don't really show that. Cutter they still got to the quarterback any way they wanted to. Beamer ball, they didn't have a special teams touchdown, but they had offensive and defensive touchdown, 2 of them on the defense, including a pick 6, which was just not the best throw. It was a good play call, and it was the right read. Bush even reiterated that today. It was the right read. It was an RPO, and there was too many guys focused on the run. You couldn't hand it off there. You just have to make that pass. It was a little bit ahead and obviously got tipped into the hands of a defender. Not what you want to see there. I said it on radio on Monday. When he caught it, I really didn't think it was going to be a pick six. Didn't look like the kind of play that would be a pick six, just a standard interception, but it was. He got all the way into the end zone, and there was two phantom flags go flying, and then the referee's like, actually, there's no flags for anything, but touchdown South Carolina. Just preemptive flags, I suppose. Fun stuff in football, but everything Kentucky needed to do, it didn't really do, apart from how it started. It got up, obviously, a bit of uncharacteristic behavior from Mark Stoops winning the coin toss and taking the ball, and then doubling down on that by scoring on the first drive. I mean, that first drive might be some of the best Kentucky's offense has looked all year. It looked fluid. It looked like it knew what it was doing. And then you even get the field goal in the second drive. Wish that was a touchdown, but you get the field goal and you have a chance. Defense makes a stop. You got a chance to go up 2 scores, and it all just falls apart. We obviously all know the 21-0 second quarter, but going into the game, Kentucky said, we've got to focus on our run game. And then it feels like they got down big and they kind of pulled back from the run game a little bit, try to take more of those deep shots, which they're very inefficient with right now. They talked about controlling the possession. South Carolina won time of possession in the game. Talked about protecting the quarterback. He got sacked 6 times. I mean, I don't really know what else there is to say other than what I just said. It was everything they said they needed to do, they didn't do, and everything that they were trying to avenge from last year, they didn't. And now you're staring down the barrel of a brutal, brutal schedule, the same way South Carolina was and is. But even Tennessee Tech is a top 10 team in the FCS right now, undefeated in the FCS. Florida is still struggling, so maybe you could pick off Florida. You should beat Tennessee Tech, but even if I'm not super sold on Louisville right now, they're 4-0. I believe they're a contender to win the ACC. Who on this schedule is a for sure win? Because I don't know that I see one. I mean, I still think Tennessee Tech should be, but again, top 10 team in the FCS, still undefeated. Who knows? I don't know where it goes from here. We're looking at a situation where Kentucky should, for the love of God, at least beat Tennessee Tech. But in terms of FBS games, there might not be another win on this schedule. There might not be more than 3 wins all year long. And the response to that I've seen, it's been surprising, I feel like. Not to go too into the fan side of things, but I feel like this time last year there was anger and there was resentment and there was vitriol, and now it kind of just feels like a lot of apathy, a lot of people who are just tired, a lot of people who aren't really having a whole lot to say. And the sentiment of, can they keep the interest until basketball arrives? No, they couldn't, because everyone's ready for basketball. The hype is up for Mark Pope, for his squad, for the ceiling being banner number 9. And I think once Big Blue Menace rolls in, some of those preseason games starts, you're going to see a significant drop off in how many people are even talking about Kentucky football anymore, because what is there to talk about right now?
Yeah, for sure. Sure. We're coming to y'all courtesy of the Believe Podcast Network. As always, rate, review, subscribe, like, share. To steal from our guy, Rickson Lane, who was on for Believe South Carolina. If you love the show, share it with someone you love. If you hate the show, share it with someone you hate. So we definitely appreciate everybody that takes the time to listen and watch. Yeah, you summed it up well, man. And just, we don't do a lot of video. If you saw it last week, you saw it. If you heard it, you heard it. I pulled up the clip of Rickson because he was starting to cook. He was starting to get a little agitated at his team. He was so upset about South Carolina because he couldn't even enjoy Clemson struggling. So I'm going to play that now. This is the state that he was in before playing Kentucky. He wasn't. He's kind of like us. They got to show me. We haven't really seen a lot, and if we don't win this one, it's bleak down the rest of the way, and not really confident going into this one. Just got our tails whooped by Vanderbilt, lost at Missouri. Just play this little minute clip of Rickson. This is what South Carolina was feeling before we went down there and gave them the get right that they needed.
You know how irritating it is to watch Clemson, who's been good since when I was in college, and that was a long time ago. That was 20, 2013, 2012. Do you know how irritating it is as someone who's grown up in this state, who's lived in this state for 31 of my 33 years on planet Earth, for Clemson to finally be bad after years of having to watch them win national titles and go to playoffs, and they play in the ACC, and they don't even have to put their shoulder pads on for half the year, and they're finally bad, and I can't even enjoy it because my team looks like that. Like, I mean, look, I'm a South Carolina fan. I've been a Carolina fan. I've been following that team since '94. I can forgive a lot of things. Goodness knows I've forgiven a lot of things watching that team. But so help me God, if they do not let me laugh at Dabo Swinney, I may never forgive him. Because I've been able to laugh at Dabo Swinney in a decade. And he's finally letting me do it, and it's not even funny because my team can't get their act together.
So that was a good little rant, man. He was cooking, and rightfully so. You know, they hadn't given him anything to feel good about. They couldn't allow him to laugh at his rivals' struggles because they were over there tripping all over themselves. And now, how much better do they feel, courtesy of the Kentucky Wildcats?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I said it on that episode or not, or if it was just kind of a thought I had, but I might have said it. But this game felt like, there's always Arkansas. Florida's still rough. But this South Carolina-Kentucky game felt like which team might turn this around and which is doomed to be one of the bottom teams in the SEC this year. Which team might not win another conference game this year if you don't win this one. And 35-13, South Carolina wins it. So that's Kentucky's future. Again, still a lot of games to be played. For all the woes, there's still been a lot of confidence in this team that's been said. Mark Stoops still says, I like my football team. Still believe they're a better team. A lot of the players, are still emphasizing just learning from your mistakes, getting better, having an opportunity to get right. But I don't know that I'd say Georgia's much of an opportunity to get right. People, I brought this up. People like to bring up that Kentucky does play Georgia close quite often. And I would agree. In Lexington, 13-12 in 2024, 16-6 in 2022. 2020 was 16-3. But what does that look like when Kentucky goes to Georgia? Well, I was there in 2023, 51-13 against a Kentucky team that had actual ambitions. They went back in 2021, 30-13. They're back in 2019, 21-0 in a game that I believe was 0-0 at halftime. Kentucky should have led, dropped that pass there. But the facts of the matter are, for all intents and purposes, while Kentucky can play Georgia close and has quite a few times, they haven't beaten the Bulldogs since 2009. I was 6 years old, for reference. And they don't tend to do it very well in Georgia. So now they're going to Georgia, and they got a bye week, and they come back to play Texas in Lexington. And that'll be after Big Blue Madness. So a lot of people will be checked out into basketball. It'll be after a bye week. We know how Kentucky tends to do in those scenarios. For me, there's not, and I hope I'm proven wrong. I want to reiterate that. I'm hoping they can prove it wrong. I'm hoping they can go and really show something. Even if they don't get the victory, at least be competitive. Show what Mark Stoops has been saying about this being a better football team. But all it's felt like to me so far is I keep hearing it's a better football team, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing the better football team that allegedly exists. And with Georgia and Texas and Tennessee coming up, I don't know that I'm going to see it. And then you're looking at a scenario where Kentucky could be 0-5 in the SEC heading into Auburn, which is perhaps one of the more winnable games left on the schedule, but it's, again, on the road. Vanderbilt on the road with their electric offense. Florida, I think Florida's at home, so you have that going for you, I guess. But by the time Florida gets here, who knows what your conference record's going to be, and who knows if it's even going to matter. So it's just, it feels like you're staring down the barrel of a gun with a riddle, and you don't know the answer. So there's only really one outcome that can come from that. So you better hope you figure it out quick, guess the answer, or
And in the flashback to Georgia, you get Georgia coming off of a loss. It's bad enough that it's Georgia, but coming off of a loss. So,
not just a loss either. It ended their legendary home winning streak that was years long, and it's to Alabama, who's been Kirby Smart, just thorn in his side for years and years and years. So you've got a Georgia team that was almost unanimous first in the SEC in our 247 sports media polls. Weirdly, Missouri has a vote in that too, by the way. I'm not going to, just a minor tangent. Someone has Missouri still to this day, number one in the SEC, has been for weeks. I'd love to know who that is, but it's not the Missouri beat reporter. Do know that. So don't know who it is, but regardless, it's not me either. Georgia was near unanimous number one in the SEC, looks just destined to get that big win there, especially after what we saw from Alabama against Florida State. But obviously, we know Kirby Smart's history with Alabama, his struggles with Alabama. Alabama comes into Georgia, snaps their just phenomenal home winning streak that they had going there. They're looking to get right. They're looking to, avenge that loss. Kirby's probably pretty ticked off about that one, with both losing the home winning streak and losing to Alabama again. I mean, it's the worst possible time you could have gotten Georgia. And that's knowing that there's not really any good times to get Georgia, but you somehow found a worse time to get Georgia.
Exactly. Kalen DeBoer is winless against Clark Lee, but undefeated against Kirby Smart. So go figure. Go figure.
Is Clark Lee the best coach in the SEC? Start the debate.
We go back to the opening drive where Kentucky goes down the field and scores. And not to nitpick that and beat that up, but they did that still without really pushing the ball down the field. Took a couple shots, didn't hit them, like you said. They're inefficient. Should have almost threw a pick, and that would have really, set the game off on its rails even maybe sooner. Because you already mentioned Stoops wins the toss, takes the ball, throw a pick, and oh man, would that have taken the win out of themselves? Dodged the bullet on the pick. The pass was like a little shovel pass, right? Like the 11-yard shovel pass. That was the 54 yards on the ground, 11 yards on that shovel pass. So you were able to go right down the field on them without hitting them deep, without really loosening them up deep. Still, nobody respects the passing game from deep because they haven't, like you already mentioned, they haven't hit it. They're inefficient. They just kind of throw it up and hope, and there's a lot of double coverage, and it's just not great. It's not, guys aren't open, and it's double coverage. It's not great, Bob. So they went down the field and scored in spite of all of that. And I'm not trying to nitpick. It just is what it is. That's
I'm with you. Even the positives for Kentucky weren't all that positive. I mean, I saw on that touchdown drive that started the game, which set the game off right the way you wanted to. There was a near interception, like you said. There was a few deep shots that went nowhere, and they end up scoring anyway. And I know Stoops said it hurt that the South Carolina offense came out and was able to get the better of the defense. I think they went for it on fourth down and still converted it, got the touchdown there to start the game. But you come back out, and even saying you got points on your first two drives, that second drive should have been a touchdown. Like, let's be honest with ourselves. They should have scored a touchdown there. They were moving the ball, and then they just got stopped. They got stopped, and they settled for a field goal, and that's great. Jacob Coway is phenomenal. He's perfect on the season, doing great things with his leg, gifted by God with his leg, way better than mine could ever be. But shouldn't have had to settle for a field goal there. And then your defense gets you a stop, the first stop of the entire game, mind you. I mean, it's only 4 drives in, but the first stop of the entire game, your defense gets the stop. I think that was the one where they had the massive sack on the North Sellers from Humphrey Grace there, maybe. I think that's the same drive I'm thinking of. Could be a different drive, but he had a big one. And then you come out, it's a rough go of it with the fumble. Cutter coughs up the football there. You get the touchdown, then you have the pick six. And then right after that, you have the turnover on downs because you go for it on fourth down and can't do much with it. And even in spite of all of that, you go into halftime trailing big, knowing you gave them the ball at halftime because you wanted to start with the football. and the defense still gets a stop. You still get a stop on defense to start the second half, and they do nothing with it. Absolutely nothing with it. You know, Kentucky got down early, and it's easy to say they lost that game in the second quarter because they did, but there was still ample opportunity to score points, to make that a game, to get back into it. You had an entire second half of football, and you started off with a stop, and you got 3 points the entire second half. I mean, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do just about anything they did in that game, really. And even the positives have a lot of negatives attached to them. You know, even with the deep ball inefficiency, we saw that one that if it had just been a little bit closer, Jamori could have easily had a touchdown there on a deep ball. Would have been a phenomenal play, but it was a little bit overthrown, I believe. Jamori couldn't quite get to it. I understand I played football. It's a game of inches sometimes, but I'm so tired of hearing with this team that we were almost there to making a big play. I'm tired of hearing, just a few inches here this way, we would have had a touchdown or a big play. And this is obviously me speaking as the team. These are things I've heard. I'm not saying I'm we, but so tired of hearing almost, so close, nearly there, a few inches away, when the final product's that you're not scoring points, you're not getting the plays, you're punting the football, you're turning it over. You can only do so much so far. I'll hear we almost had a couple big plays in a close one, maybe against Ole Miss. I would let it slide week 2. But at this point in the season, I get it. This was only Cutter's second game. But at this point in the season, you just got to hit those. I mean, that's something Bush Hamden said. He said sometimes you just got to make that throw. You do. And that's unfortunate. And I won't put it all on Cutter Boley. I won't put it all on the offensive line because, like you did say, I think it is a massive, massive problem that most of the time there aren't guys open. Guys are not creating separation. Bush Hamden said today, maybe we got to create some bunches. We got to make some stacks, find ways to get guys open. But we have to be a team because right now it kind of feels like they're all just running around out there and none of them are getting open. And then Cutter Boley's taking, a tea break in the pocket to try to look for somebody, and then he's getting sacked. So, it's not a winning recipe on offense, and it's not. And even if they pulled away from the run game a little more than they should have late, you can't be a one-dimensional offense. You can't, because if you're South Carolina and you don't respect the pass, you don't think they can do it, you're just going to prevent the run. And we saw that. Dante Dowdell was not very effective against South Carolina. Seth McGowan had a great start, got that big 20-yard touchdown, but even he was kind of struggling later in that game to get some yardage. And obviously he was a little bit banged up, took a little bit of hits there. But it's hard to play one-dimensional offense. I know we all relive the days of when Kentucky was going to run it every single play and everyone knew what they're going to do and they still did it. But this team clearly can't do that. So you got to figure out something. And so far, they don't have it.
Make them throw the flag for pick plays, pick routes, something to get some guys free, open, run some of them. And if you get called for it, at least you tried. If they're not, getting enough separation on their own, and if they are, it's Cutter's still having, it's not high school open anymore. You got to pull the trigger on it, even though it doesn't look open as it used to be in high school. But they're probably not even SEC open right now for a veteran quarterback who's seen it and the game is slowed down to him. That's not even happening. And now you got a quarterback who's still getting used to what open is at this level. So that's just a terrible combination.
I mean, I was having a conversation with somebody before media today, and it's not a knock on Cutter. I think he could still be very, very good in this league, but he's a redshirt freshman who just made his first true conference start. I mean, these guys aren't getting SEC open. They're not. And Cutter, just at this point in his career, he's not the kind of quarterback that can get a guy open. Cutter Boley can't do it for you. And it's not that he's not good enough and can't get there one day. It's that he's a redshirt freshman. It's that he's not started in the SEC until this game. And he doesn't have the experience. He doesn't have the experience to recognize where the rush is coming from sometimes. He's still familiarizing himself with where his pressure points are, so he's not getting sacked. He's still learning so many aspects of this offense. He's not to the point where he can get a guy open with his throw. So you, as the receiver, have to get open. And like you said, it's the SEC. You're not going to get high school open, but they're not SEC open either. So it's not working. And if I had all the answers, I think I would apply. I think I would try to join the team there, maybe even try to make a little payday, but I don't. I'm not going to pretend I know all the answers, but something has got to give, or it's going to be a very long and very ugly season, and ugly from a results perspective and an ugly from an offensive perspective.
We talked about it
And
last week. Yeah, we talked about it last week. Oh, my bad.
Sorry, I was just going to add, I know a lot of people right now are pretty fed up with Mark Stoops. They want Stoops gone, but the reality of the situation is unless he walks away, Kentucky is not about to pay the second largest buyout in college football history, only behind Jimbo Fisher, which we all thought was insanity. We're talking about Mark Stoops' buyout right now is higher than Gus Malzahn's was at Auburn. If we're being honest about it, this would be the second largest buyout in college football history. That's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. I need people to understand that. I could be wrong. It'd be crazy, but logically, realistically, if Stoops does not walk away or negotiate a lower buyout the way Sam Pittman did, he's not going anywhere. And if you can't get this offense correct, that's going to hurt you in recruiting, because if you're a high star receiver or quarterback or anything other than maybe a running back, why would you want to play in that system? Quite frankly, just being frank about it, why you're not going to get some of those guys, and you're going to be in the same cycle that you were last time. And it's going to affect you in the transfer portal. Because if you're a guy who's looking for a team that's going to get you to the pros, why would you come here? That's just, and I'm not making that case. I fully believe in this team's capability to recruit and to get these guys in there and what they're selling. I think that, I'm not making a recruiting pitch against them. I'm just saying the reality of the situation is if you don't get this cleaned up, it is very unlikely there is a change with the head coach next year. If you don't get this cleaned up, you're going to continue to fall in this spiral where players are not going to want to join that system. And if players aren't going to join your system, you're going to have a continued bad offense. And if that happens, it's just going to repeat and repeat and repeat.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked last week about Cutter making his first start, and it's going to be rough no matter. You just can't. That's unavoidable. The fact there's going to be adversity, it's going to be hard, it's going to be, almost overwhelming, because we saw Austin Simmons come in to Kroger Field and look shaky, throw 2 picks. That man doesn't even have a job anymore. Now Trinidad Chambers is starting at Ole Miss. They were able to overcome
around Oxford right now.
They were able to overcome his 2 picks to Ty Bryant. Everybody, and we've heard Stoops say it, play better around him, put Cutter in better positions, play better around him. They played better around Simmons. They overcame the deficit and won the game. Kentucky's going to have to play better around Cutter, and we haven't seen an ability to overcome adversity. We know how we feel when this team gets behind. We know they don't have any firepower to come back. They're not built to, rally. They're built to ball control and get a lead and just kind of suck the life out of the clock. It's kind of the way they're built. So, we've seen it. It's already happened to us with a freshman, first SEC start. We've already seen it, and it went their way. And now we've seen what happened when our guy went on the road Saturday. And now numbers 2, second start is coming up, between the hedges. So,
yeah, I will say in terms of, a little bit of optimism, Daryl Bird from the Cat's Paws wrote a pretty phenomenal story after the game that, this isn't unusual. Everyone remembers the Hefty Lefty had a terrible start. His first start was abysmal. And I think Maggard was in there, bad start. There's a lot of great quarterbacks that have gone on to be really, really great at Kentucky who were terrible in their first start. Absolutely. It's a fact. It's hard to play in the SEC. It is hard to be a freshman starting mid-season at any position because, you don't have the time to get some of those feeler games and you don't have the time to, get adjusted as much. But the team does need to play better around him. The receivers are going to need to open. The protection is going to have to be better, and he plays a part in that. He's going to have to get rid of that ball faster. He's going to have to be more aware of where the pressure's coming from, more using his peripherals a bit to see some of those guys coming. But at the end of the day, the protection still needs to be better. The receivers need to get open more, and the team needs to be better. And the thing that just stuck out to me the most is when Bush Hamden was talking about getting the receivers open. He said, "We have to be a team," and that it sounds so simple, but it is true. It is not that Kentucky has the culture issues maybe it had last year, but it still feels disjointed. It still feels like there's not really a team right now. And how many times this season, whether it be on offense or defense, have we heard we need to communicate better? We need to be talking to each other. We need these guys to know what each other is doing. And that's something that, Shiash Pete said today when asked about how to get better about I asked him, about some of those twist moves that South Carolina was doing to create pressure and get around him. And he said, we have to communicate better, and he also said we have to scrub that from our minds and try to just move past it. But the first thing he said is we need to communicate better. And he didn't really go further into that, but that is true. If you're an offensive line, you have to be a wall. You can't just be a bunch of posts. You have to know what each other's doing and not allow those gaps. When it's the defense, you have to be a unit, and the offense has to be a unit. And if it's disjointed and people aren't communicating, everybody's just trying to do their thing, then you're not going to have cohesion. You're not going to have success on the football field.
And again, we're not trying to just beat everything to death and just be doom and gloom the whole show. We just got to call it like we see it. We have a little positive couple minutes coming up because we'll get to the Reds and we'll get to your Red Sox. So, but you mentioned Shiaz Pete again. It's
Vinny, I'm not feeling very positive about my Red Sox right now. I'm not feeling very positive. It's the end of the sixth. End of the sixth. We still haven't scored a run.
It's 1-0. I know it's October. Well, tomorrow's October. It feels like a bigger deficit, but hey, just I don't know. Yeah, you can break through. You still got time to break through. But Shiaz Pete though, and I'm not even going to say anything about the fumble. He knows he should have felt the fumble. The other play, I forget what juncture of the game, and this is on everybody again. Collectively, everybody need to do better. Cutter Boley rolls to his right. Shiaz is a left tackle. Cutter Boley still gets sacked by South Carolina's right defensive end. So, number one, Shiaz, slow him down a little bit more. Like, they're rolling away from this dude. He's not even – the play is going away from him. Cutter still held the ball long enough for him to be chased down and sacked. But, maybe he should have been slowed down a little bit more. Again, nobody was open to throw the ball to. So, it's a combination of everything malfunctioning simultaneously. But for the right end to chase down the quarterback who's rolling away from him, that's one you're like, hey, how is that happening? That should not happen.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's tough. South Carolina has a very good pass rush, and I think Pete himself would tell you he didn't play the best. He said we've got to try to scrub that one out of our minds and try to move forward. We got a lot to work on, but the numbers don't lie. Shiash Pete was graded a 53.3 by Pro Football Focus for his gameplay there. That's, if you don't know that rating system, that's not very good. That's not a high score. I believe that's in the maybe not in the red, but in the orange in terms of whether that's good or bad. Good is green, obviously. Bad is red. I think if it's not red, that's at least orange. Only offensive lineman graded a little bit lower than him was Jagger Burton, who had a 48.9, which that's got to be in the red. Couple shaky snaps there. We saw a couple Cutter had to jump for, which was concerning. That's not really an issue we've seen a ton this year. It's an issue we saw a few years back when he was at center. But again, nothing that got loose. Just a couple Cutter had to jump for. The best.
And he's 6'5".
Yeah, the best rated offensive lineman was Alex Woolschlager at 67.2. Josh Brown had a 58.3, and Jalen Farmer rounded out with a 60.0. So all in all, not a great showing, and Pete was towards the bottom end of that. And that's Again, not going to rail on the guy. I think he's been pretty reliable most of this season. I think that the
Yeah.
offensive line is clearly a lot better
It
than it
is.
has been in years prior. I think it's the fact that we're even frustrated with the offensive line play right now is a testament to how much better they are. Because I think if last year's offensive line had put up this showing, we'd be like, you know what, that's an improvement. So again, we have to understand that. But quite frankly, with that low rating from Pete, I saw it. Before the game was over, I could have told you it was going to be low. And there's a lot of times, players will get rated high or low on PFF, and you're like, did they really make that much of an impact? Were they really, that strong? Were they really that bad? I didn't notice it. I noticed it. I was sitting there in the press box in Columbia. I knew it was going to be low. All right. And like you said there, whether it's not diving on that fumble or, whether it was the play where, like you said, Boley scrambles right, still gets tackled from the left side. It felt like a lot of times when Pete made a mistake, oh boy, did they pay for it. And, maybe that's a testament to how valuable he is on this offensive line, how valuable he is in this unit. But when I watched that game and I saw what was going on, I could have told you it was going to be a low rating. And that is not what you want to see from a guy like Shiash Pete, who has the potential to be very, very good and has been pretty reliable, I feel like, for a lot of this season.
Absolutely. So transitioning from Cats, we already know everybody's, anticipating Big Blue Madness. In the interim, we all know everybody from our home state. The bulk of our home state is Cincinnati Reds fans from the older generation before our time. The Big Red Machine, Pete Rose, Johnny Bench, Joe Morgan, all those guys that won back-to-back World Series. Doug Flynn, who's on those, UK from Lexington, up there winning rings with the Reds. Glory in the 70s. They won the World Series in 1990 when I was 12. Me and my dad randomly went up there and watched them play.
I would have been negative. I think it would have been negative 13 in 1990.
You're way younger than me. We know. I'm just kidding. Yeah, but yeah, me and my dad went there. Neither one of us Reds fans, but we just went up there to see them, and they ended up winning the World Series. So that was cool. 95, my Braves swept them out of the playoffs en route to winning the World Series. So the younger fans, Derek Terry, a little bit older than you, lifelong Reds fan, friend of this podcast. He said, I haven't seen the Reds do anything in my lifetime. For the bang for my buck as a fan, I haven't gotten a return on my investment. They did nothing in my lifetime. I root for them year in, year out. And, he's really had nothing to show for it. I think he was born in 95, the year they got swept by the Braves. So the optimism was starting to build when your guy, Tito Francona, did all the multiple titles in Boston. Took Cleveland to prominent, rose them. He starts to manage the Reds, and so they immediately, we got Ellie, we're young, and we got talent, we got Hunter Green, and we got this pitching staff, and now we got a manager who has been there and done it. And so year one, Tito Francona, and it was quite a roller coaster ride for the Reds, and they got themselves into the playoffs. So Kentucky as a state has the Reds now to be optimistic about. They play the Dodgers in a couple of hours. And so, hey, the Reds are in the playoffs. So Reds fans out there, we know some of y'all are listening as well. We know y'all are excited to see some postseason baseball for the Redlegs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I kind of would agree with the sentiment. The Reds haven't really done anything in my lifetime. I think I've been to a couple Reds games being in the area. I've been to 16 different MLB stadiums. My goal is to go to all 30. I've been to 16 of them. I've been to a couple Reds games in Cincinnati. It's a nice ballpark. I enjoy their little pay $20 or whatever and spin the wheel and get a random bobblehead. I've got a couple of those over here. Let me this one here, Ernie Lombardi. And got a Ted Klutz there.
Oh, okay. That dude was jacked, right?
Yes.
He wore the short sleeves, and that dude was like ripped. That name sounds familiar.
Short
Yeah.
sleeves on display there. No, I like to collect some bobbleheads. I like me some bobbleheads, but fun stuff there. My biggest memory, I think, of the Reds in my lifetime was either the COVID playoffs or one of the ones right after that when they expanded them and they got I think they got shut out for the entire playoffs in a first round series loss. There was a lot of hype. They made the playoffs and they lost like 1-0 and like 3-0. It was not a great showing. It was a 3-game series there. So that was most of my knowledge of them. But I do like Ellie quite a bit. Ellie De La Cruz is a fun player to watch, really exciting player to watch. And as far as who I'm rooting for in this playoffs, obviously it's going to be my Boston Red Sox. But as far as the NL goes, I would love to see the Reds make a run. I would love to see them go far. And I think it's kind of, having watched baseball with my own eyes this year, I would not have predicted the Reds would make the playoffs, but they're here and they're ready to play. How they'll do against the Dodgers, we'll see. As a Red Sox fan, I would love nothing more than for them to sweep the Dodgers and send all those fans home crying. I hate the Dodgers, but yeah, I think it's quite first impressive. They made the playoffs. Didn't seem like they were going to for a little bit there, but they did what they needed to do down the stretch. Obviously, we all saw the Marlins go crazy, take the team photo, and they eliminated the Mets. Also enjoy seeing the suffering of Mets fans. I'm a bit of a hater. Yeah. I'm learning that I'm a bit of a hater when it comes to baseball. But nonetheless, it's exciting for Reds fans. And like you said, a lot of people around here, Reds fans, saw a bunch of Reds merch all around Lexington today, at media today. There's a lot of people really, really optimistic about this. And a lot of people who haven't seen the Reds do much of significance in their lifetime. So exciting at the prospect that they're back in the playoffs, that they can do something again, and that there is a reason to believe with Reds baseball again.
Yeah. So 9:08 looks like first pitch on ESPN. So a lot of Kentucky will be tuning in, trying to stay up as late as possible to see what the Reds do against the Dodgers. So
we got this.
Oh man, yeah. Oh,
world champs.
Oh, that's classic. Yeah, absolutely, man. That's some classic memorabilia right there. That's peak Bid Reg Machine, peak glory days right there, man, for sure. So congrats to the Reds. I'm still, outside looking in as a Braves fan. So don't be, hey, somebody is in scoring position, man, on second and third for your Red Sox. So we wrap this up as they start to rally. Yeah, look at them. I don't know how many outs. One. Yeah. Hey, they fixed the breakthrough.
Right here. Inject it into my veins.
See?
Let's get some runs.
We will jump off here. Y'all got ducks on the pond, and everybody in the Bronx is starting to get a little nervous. And
I got a lot of Yankee fans out there that are my friends. Aaron Gershon, my predecessor, Yankees fan, Colonel Sports Editor Jonathan Bruner, Yankees fans. Just need to say it on the pod. If the Red Sox win this series, I'm going to be insufferable. I'm going to lose some friends. If we eliminate the Yankees from the playoffs, I'm going to lose some friends. I'm going to be insufferable.
I was texting with Aaron today because I told him, anytime his schedule allows him to, he's welcome to hop on here with us for an episode. He still thought, because when he and I did it, Wednesday was a better day, and Tuesdays have been better for us. He said Wednesdays are crazy for him, but Tuesdays now might be better. So he's going to let me know. I'm not locked in stone for next week, but here pretty soon he's going to be on here. Not sure if this series is going to go 3 or if it goes 5. If he pops on next week, it still might be in progress. Who knows? But I know y'all have had plenty of back and forth before. So.
Yes.
But yeah,
we played well against him this year. I actually saw Jonathan, the Colonel Sports Editor, right before I came home. I came back from South Carolina, and he and his wife, they had took care of Kat while I was gone, and had to go pick up my key from him. And he crossed his arms, looked at me, and said, "Just so you know, like after this weekend, one of us is gonna get it. All right, like one of us is gonna, So I already know what to expect there. Hopefully it can be
Oh, looky there. Looky there.
lucky there.
Looky there. I got it on. See, you were worried about it, man. Look, it went from down 1-0 to up 2-1 and got all the momentum. Look at that. Yeah, pitch and
jaded.
change. It's a pitch and change of meeting at the mound. I can't say. I'm not sure if that's Bone. But yeah, their pitcher is shook. Red Sox dugout is stoked. So yeah, we'll put a bow in this episode and let you watch your Red Sox hopefully go up 1-0 as the bats are heating up in these late innings. So yeah, here we go. So appreciate everybody's taking the time to watch, listen. It's on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, X, Believe in Kentucky. The video we played earlier was on TikTok. Go and follow there. And if you like, retweet, subscribe, post, give a little 5-star review on the podcast app. Sign in and do that, and just write what you think of the show. Hey, Cole, we appreciate your insights. Hey, we appreciate you guys. Whatever you want to put, take a minute. Several people have done that, so we always appreciate that. And we always have fun bringing you the episodes. So we'll be back next week to look back at Cats and Dogs down in Georgia. Then it'll be another bye week. Big Blue Madness will be on the horizon. We'll see what happens with maybe Red Sox advancing. All that next week. Tigers beat the Guardians after collapsing down the stretch to Cleveland. The Tigers go up 1-0 on Cleveland. So it's the exciting time.
They went over the Padres too. Back to back there to basically take the lead. And we will have an emergency pod when the Red Sox are holding the World Series title. So
okay, hey, just we'll get it. Yeah. No matter what time of night, we'll do something, man. We'll put one out. Won't be the first time. We all did that Cal leaving Pope hired stuff late at night, and Aaron and I did when Vanderbilt beat Kentucky the first time. We did it because it was wow. We did one for that. I was in Green Bay fixing to go to the Cowboys Packers, and had to do one that night because we didn't expect that to happen. And now we don't know when we'll see an SEC win again. That's where we are. And,
yeah, honestly.
Life comes at you fast. But we'll come back at you next week on Believe in Kentucky for Cole Park. This is Vinny Hardy. Check Cole out on the Cat's Paws. He's tweeting out a bunch of quotes, a bunch of stories. He's always at practice. He's getting all the scoop. So follow him and tune in and check us out each week. So we'll hop on off of here for now. Go Cats, go Red Sox. It's getting to be that time of year where all the sports are going on. NBA's about to crank up too. So everybody stay safe. Kentucky, enjoy the Reds being in the postseason. And we'll holler at everybody next week on Believe in Kentucky on Believe Podcast Network.